Last week, the Broncos stampeded into the Sydney Rugby League competition in their first true trial. Complete with the razzmatazz of dancing girls, big bands and fireworks, it was just the start the brand new club needed. A slower start on the field, but once the Broncos began to gallop, the scoreboard kept ticking over. No Wally Lewis last week, but the Emperor is ready to strike back tonight off the reserve bench after a knee injury. And look out for another dazzling performance from the Prince of the Park, Alan Langer. If there's anything that gets the Aussie blood boiling, it's a confrontation with the Kiwis. The President's 13, minus some of the big names, are here to be blooded for the future. And remember last year, the Kiwis creamed the best we had to offer on this very ground. But the money men are betting that by the time the Broncos are finished, the Kiwis won't know the haka from the Highland Fling.
And a very good evening, everyone. Welcome to Lang Park. Here we have the Brisbane Broncos taking on their final preparation for the big match next week when they move into the Sydney Rugby League competition. And David, having a look at this New Zealand team, I suppose they always come out here and they always want to win, don't they?
Well, Billy, despite 42 of their key players being either in Sydney or overseas, they've fielded a squad of 17 tonight, featuring 2 Test players, Mark Horrow and Barry Harvey, the captain. They're coached by Tony Gordon. He's got fond memories. Just look at that video clip earlier of when New Zealand did Australia here at Lang Park. They've got a lot to prove, and as much as some of them are searching for contracts in the New South Wales Rugby League Premiership, they'll be able to prove a point tonight. It's a tough final hit out for the Broncos. I'm looking forward to it. All right, and of course too, they've got a couple of representative matches coming up this season and a tour of Great Britain next year, so a lot to look forward to. Certainly is. All right, let's have a look at the teams for tonight. Brisbane Broncos, there are a couple of changes, but those changes will come up in the forwards. The back line as it was last week. We have Terry Madison coming in for the injured Grant Ricks, and they won't miss out here. I thought he played a great match last week when he came on. Brett Lamanders moved into the second row, and he had an excellent game last week. And also we have Kieran Walters coming in there in the hooking position. So that's how the team lines up. They'll be led by Gary Dowding, who led them last week. He was pretty tickled-pink, I think, about the performance last week, and he'll look forward to another big one tonight. What about... Well, as I mentioned, the New Zealand side boasts 2 Test players, Billy, as we look at their lineup. And the 2 Test players, remembering this New Zealand side, will number in international numbering. So Mark Horrow, in fact, will play at lock forward. Number 13 will be the lock forward, and number 9, for example, Barry Harvey, the captain, will be the hooker. It's a very strong side. Good to see the name of Rapati there, one of the 6 brothers. This one, Ivor Rapati. We know, of course, of the background of that family in New Zealand football. It's a strong lineup, as I mentioned, coached by Tony Gordon, and David Wright's been down in the dressing room to look at the 2 sides. And David, no doubt, Tony Gordon has a point to prove.
He has, Dave, and I think one thing we're guaranteed to have tonight, and that is a rough, tough game, because that's the way the New Zealanders like to play it. In the dressing room, I saw that those guys weren't very big, but certainly super fit. They look to me to be a side that are very, very fit, and they'll be able to go the whole distance with the Brisbane Broncos, I've got no doubt. Talking about Tony Gordon, you talk about intensity. That guy was steamed up in the dressing room, and if he can transmit that sort of intensity to his players, we're in for one great game out here this evening. There again in the Broncos room, they've got Wally Lewis sitting on the bench tonight, and it just struck me they were far more relaxed this week than what I saw in the dressing room last week. And why wouldn't they be? The Broncos as a club are yet to lose a game. They've been up country this week. They won a game up there, a couple of games last week. The reserve grade are going very well here. They look to me to be very relaxed. It's going to be, though, a test of toughness as I see it for this side, and I think it's no coincidence that Wayne Bennett has stuck with a young Kieran Walters at hooker and Andrew Testament in the front row. Those 2 guys are only young fellows, and they're going to be tested out this evening. Of course, the Broncos, the last thing they want leading up to next week's game is any injuries. Over on the other side of the ground, we've got Terry Kennedy, and he's with John Rebo, the general manager of the Broncos. Terry.
Thanks very much, David Wright, and once again it's another perfect night for rugby league here at Lang Park. There is little or no wind blowing down here at the moment, so neither side will be disadvantaged or advantaged. Once again, there is a good crowd on hand here. I'd say looking round about 6,000 or 7,000 people, maybe 8,000 people. John Rebo, are you happy with that crowd?
Yes, Terry, it makes for a great game tonight, and I'm sure the New Zealanders won't let us down. They're going to certainly turn on the fireworks, and we'll certainly accommodate them in all departments, I hope, tonight.
Speaking about turning on the fireworks, there was plenty of action here off the field last week. How about this week?
Yeah, we're certainly going ahead with all our promotions. We're going to do more promotions than what we did last week, and we will have a fireworks display at the end of the game.
Of course, this is another trial game, an experimental side by the Broncos. How good is this Kiwi side?
Very good. They've got 6 internationals in their side. They've got 2 current test players, and they've got a good bunch of young players there. And I saw them train only yesterday, and they trained very well. And once they put that black and white jersey on, they sort of go to 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and I'm sure it'll be no different tonight.
As everybody knows, the Kiwis are always hard to beat, especially here at Lang Park. Now it's back to David Fordham and Billy J. Smith.
Just waiting for the teams to come onto the field to lead out in the match tonight. As you can see, 120 New Zealanders down there who've been entertaining the crowd with one of the biggest harkers I think we've seen around here.
I don't think they were bowing to King Wally then either.
No, I don't think Wally had walked through that one, but he'd go around the other way. But they're waiting, of course, to cheer on this New Zealand President's 13. And as we've said, there's a bit of experience there, but a lot of young fellas. And, gee, they always put plenty into it when they're playing in this country.
Certainly do, Bill. And we've seen that's the way New Zealand have developed their players in recent years, and that is to give them opportunities to play at representative level. In actual fact, I asked Tony Gordon, the New Zealand coach, before the match, I said, have you got some good young players that we should specifically look for? He said, they're all good young players. So I guess that's what he thinks of his side. He's got a very high opinion of them, and this is the way to blood them, to give them an opportunity at this level.
Or was he just trying to snare you there, David, do you think?
I took a step back.
Fair crowd, Billy, for a trial match, and I'd say a very similar crowd to the match against Canberra last weekend.
Yes, and not a doubt, of course, so we're getting ready for the big one next week when this Brisbane Broncos team play their first competition match against Manly Warringah, last year's premiers. That'll be a Sunday night match going to air at 6:30.
Well, we've got a very big weekend of football for you next weekend, beginning on Friday night, a replay at 8:30 here in Brisbane, with a clash from the opening of the new football stadium in Sydney between Eastern Suburbs and St George. Then David, Billy and I will be on our way to the Gold Coast on Saturday night for the clash between the Gold Coast Giants and Canterbury Bankstown. And as Billy mentioned, the one you've all been waiting for, the opening of the Broncos campaign in 1988, the Broncos versus Manly Warringah. So we're going to be kept honest. We'll earn a living, earn $1 for change Billy the right way.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of interest all the way around. And now with the Gold Coast Giants winning last night, of course, against South Sydney, that really puts a lot of interest in their opening match against Canterbury.
Bill, I was down there last night, and they performed particularly well. Admittedly, South Sydney didn't have their top side on their first up in the first half. They brought on fellas like Davidson and Boyle and Coleman in the second half and played a lot better, but certainly was a good indication.
Well, here they come, led out by Greg Dowling, and you can understand the cheers that go up. Greg Dowling, probably not the most favourite son in New Zealand.
David, you mentioned cheers coming in there. There's quite a few boos, which suggests there's a lot of New Zealanders here to cheer on their side. We'll get a good idea when they come out.
Well, there's Greg Dowling. Led the side very, very well last week. A determined man up the front of the scrum from the Brisbane Broncos. And wait for the reaction now of the New Zealand side, led out by their captain, Barry Harvey, from the Randwick Club at Wellington. He made his test debut against Australia in 1986, and in fact played his only 2 test matches against Australia in the Shaky Isles. It's a side, as Billy mentioned, that may lack a little bit of experience, but I can tell you they're a very determined outfit. They'll be out to prove a point tonight for more reasons than one. Here they come now, coming out through the gates at Lang Park, and already a very strong contingent even on the ground. And the cheer squad, the New Zealand President's 13.
I think I'll let that reaction tell you all about it. Harvey, of course, in there in the hooking position, and that'll be a test for young Kieran Walters playing his first game tonight in the top grade.
Well, Kieran Walters at times has been blamed for playing his own game from dummy half. We saw Greg Kineski last week have an outstanding match, but he's been relegated out to St George for tomorrow's game. Kineski and Niebling not available for tonight's game. They'll play the third game for the Broncos that the Broncos have had this week. So plenty of interest all round for the Broncos, and should be an interesting match tonight.
Not only playing that match up in the country, but also they've been touring around quite a deal, and certainly showing the people of Queensland what they've got. Righto, here's Big Gino, a highlight player for the Broncos. And Gino, of course, has appeared in 13 tests, 15 state of origins, classed as the best centre in the world, and I don't think there'll be too many people to take you on to argue about that one.
Interesting too, Bill, that he doesn't wear a knee guard on his leg now this year. First time that he's actually taken it off, which is great to see. He's got the full confidence back after a horrific injury.
Okay, now let's have a look in the New Zealand lineup, and we will be featuring here Mark Horrow, the big fella who will remember Lang Park, of course. They're doing their harker out there at the moment, but he'll remember Lang Park. Had a big one here last year in the New Zealand victory over Australia.
Outstanding match. He played in the second row last year against Australia, was one of the key players, and they'll be looking for his experience to show the way tonight. I'll be very surprised if we don't get a little bit of fisticuffs and a bit of fire early. The New Zealanders like to play it rough and tough, but as I said, and you can see there, They're not a very big side as such, but boy, were they looking fit in the dressing room before the game.
Well, someone that would know how tough they do play is Greg Dowling, of course. He has had a couple of memorable clashes with them.
He clashes on and off the field.
Gene Miles mentioned before the game when they ran out in New Zealand last year, there were 12 cheers for the Australians and 1 boo, and that belonged to Greg Dowling.
Right.
Eddie Ward, the referee for this evening's match here at Lang Park. And the action about to begin in the final trial match for the Brisbane Broncos before their campaign begins next week.
And by the way, too, the match will be played in halves tonight. We had quarters last week, but we're building up to the competition, so we're into halves tonight, and that's how it'll go. It'll be Bancroft, the 5'8", to kick off for the New Zealand Presidents 13, and away it goes, and they're underway now. And quickly the ball comes back to Colin Scott. Scott's going to work his way up to about 20 metres out from the line, and coming in underneath there is over the top rather was Tuta, and here's Keith G running it up to the quarter line. Tuta, the halfback, in there again. He's a cousin of the front rower there in Tuta also. So you'll have a couple of Tutas tootling around out there tonight. Here's the big front rower coming up in Tessman. Tessman played the early part of last week's match. They took him off when things just got a little bit off the rails, but I think he would have gained a lot from that, David, last week.
Yeah, another test for him out here this evening too, Bill, because there's going to be some pretty hot stuff, I think, up front, and good to see Bennett giving an opportunity to just test his toughness.
Right, it's going to be taken back there by Sutton, the New Zealand fullback, after kick forward there by Groff. The 5'8", who had such a good match last week for the Broncos, and of course Wally Lewis on the touchline, but he will be playing tonight. We expect to see about 20 or 30 minutes of Wally, and that'll have him primed up for the big one next week. Meanwhile, New Zealand in possession, coming back over there this time, coming through will be Mark Horrow. Horrow put down, held up about just on the 10-metre line. New Zealand rucking it up now. The Broncos getting up, Tessman into the tackle there. So from the play the ball. Here's the boot coming underneath it once again. Bancroft driving it down to Colin Scott, but it's been a knock-on in there, so we'll have a scrum coming up a few metres inside New Zealand territory.
Yeah, just a little knock-on there. There's the 5'8" Bancroft, only a small guy. Actually, be interesting to see both the halves, Bancroft and Tuta, are rather inexperienced in representative football. They'll be put to the test tonight.
They play with the same club side in Canterbury, so there'll be a fair bit of combination there, though.
This one against the feed by New Zealand, and running around the open side there was Tuta. New Zealand rucking it through, not quite solidly. That's the man with the ball. There will be Russell Tuta. He goes to the ground with it. 10 metres inside Broncos territory now from the play the ball. Swinging it out to Mark Woods. Woods put to the ground. Tessman underneath. Keith G, the tackler, over the top. About to play it. Dummy half is Harvey. Swings it away. Bancroft getting it on this time to Panapa. Panapa well wrapped up though. That's a nice tackle. Getting right in underneath him this time was Madison, who got out there. Nice work. Final tackle coming up. New Zealand, we can expect to see it go back to Bancroft. There goes the kick. It wasn't Bancroft though. It was Tuta, the halfback, who put it away, but Colin Scott takes it nicely down underneath the goal post. Slipped away from the first tackle coming up from Morona, and now is going to be put to the ground. That was pretty high for mine. A bit of a...
Brown was the offender. Eddie Ward in to caution him. Undoubtedly went high on Colin Scott. What a good break that one was, Dave, from Scotty. The kick was not a good one. It was far too deep. Had plenty of time for Colin Scott to take it under the post. There's the big fellow Brown coming across. Desperation. Here it is. There's Colin Scott breaking up the right inside. Cuts back on the inside. Slightly wrong-footed Brown, but up he goes. Brings him down. You can see the feet swing around from underneath Colin Scott. Brown lucky to only get away with a caution. Penalty to the Broncos.
And also into that tackle was Hanson there too. This is Groff finding touch, bringing play up to 8 metres inside New Zealand territory. Early match tonight, the reserve grade. The Broncos defeated Wide Bay by 44-14. Opened up a big lead, but Wide Bay came back till the end of the match. So now it's Langer. New Zealand going to be playing a little bit too keen to get up there.
Inside the 5 metres. Langer up quickly though. We noticed last week they didn't always have a shot for goal when on offer. But Dowling, with it being so early in the match, let's see what they decide. Obviously would have been discussed with Bennett before the match whether they were going to take early points. They're not going to. They're going to keep the pressure on, which I think is the way to do it. It's a trial match after all.
Right, here's Groff, the man who's to take the kick for touch over there, and he finds it nicely, not trying to be too adventurous, just making sure he gains a reasonable amount of ground to get the Broncos on the attack. So it's Walters up as dummy half, back over there to Dowling, turns it on to Walters. Walters trying to get through, but he can't. The tackle coming around from Russell Tuta up there, about to play it. Waiting up as dummy half is Madison to Langer. Langer to Groff. Groff is racing back into a heap of forwards up there and put to the ground. He'll get up to play it though, back over to Langer. Langer quickly spinning it on, and they're making their way through. Miles gets it away this time to Johns. Johns held up in the tackle though, back there to grab a hold of him will be Mark Horrow. He'll play it though, Walters waiting up as dummy half. Broncos putting on the pressure. Here's Walters trying to slip through. He's reaching for the line, and it's no try.
Double movement. Looked like it too, caught short. Couldn't help himself, had to reach over. just caught Eddie Ward in beautiful position. The crowd thought it was quite comical. Must have been a Kiwi. There it is. That's an interesting one. Whether the actual ball had been on the ground, but Eddie Ward on the spot decides it was a double movement, and New Zealand off the hook.
It amazed me. He seems to run. He gets so close to the line. It was so upright. I would have thought the head down might have been the way to do it.
Yeah, well, certainly could have used his body position a bit better, but he has got a habit of that, Bill. He actually does run rather upright and continues to step and look for support.
Dummy half up there is Harvey, swinging away, going to be lost this time by Hansen. And a knock on, says referee Eddie Ward. So the scrum to pack down just about on the New Zealand quarter line.
Well, so would be a bit of nerves for the New Zealanders. As we said, a lot of young guys out here, and it's a big test for them.
Alan Langer to feed. In she goes. Old scrum screwing around. Langer's in there to get it. He's got Tuta right on top of him, and that attracts a penalty from Eddie Ward.
Well, we had there Brendan Tuta, the halfback, not staying behind his own scrum. He must wait behind until the ball comes out, and little Alan Langer picking it up and had Tuta on top of him immediately.
So it's going to be Groff to kick for touch again. Broncos getting very close after only 6 minutes of play. Now they'll take the tap and put the pressure on again. This is Walters, over to Langer. The little fella quickly sends it on to Dowling. Dowling charging his way through. He'll be put up about 9 metres out. Walters works the blind side, gets it all. Lost by Madison, rolls. Oh, it's going to be picked up there by G. And Broncos retain possession, but lost a bit of momentum on that occasion. Walters back to Langer. Can he get it going? On to Groff. Groff getting it outside to Miles. Miles trying to unload it. The ball rolling loose. It's going to be picked up over there by Rapati. Rapati swings it away. He doubles around now into touch, and it'll be about 11 metres short of the halfway mark.
There's Tony Gordon. He wouldn't be too happy with that because they picked up the loose ball. They had a chance to make something of it, but then just went straight over the touchline. It was Aramona who actually went over the touchline.
So scrum feed, 7 minutes gone first half. It's a Broncos ball. And there's Scott on the line, but he's well taken in the tackle by Bancroft, the 5'8" from the New Zealand President's 13. So to dummy half goes Walters. He goes on his own, spotted the gap, closed quickly through the form of Russell Two to the prop forward. Now they move it again. It goes out through G. G tried to turn it back in field, taken over the top by Horo. Here we go again now, through Langer on the open side to Groff, out to Gene Miles, tried to bump through the tackle, but that New Zealand defence is strong out wide. There's the bus trying to get, the pass was unloaded, but again some solid defence through Peter Brown, the big prop forward.
Penalty has gone to the Broncos. Gene Miles, he was in an altercation there a couple of moments previously.
Yeah, that was Bancroft who came in, and he chased him and had another go after that. Well, he's having a bit of a laugh about it.
It's all right for Wally's on the bench at the moment. Beautiful little pass that went up, and here it is. I don't think Miles really necessarily wanted it. He was surrounded by New Zealanders, and over the top came Brown. His second caution for a high tackle. There's Bancroft, the little fellow first. The little pass up from Note was a good one, but Gene Miles didn't want it. Brown was standing beside him. Swoosh goes Bancroft. Down goes Gene Miles.
Well, Bancroft wanted to be in that come hell or high water.
So there's the kick for touch from Groff, taking play inside the 22 again. The Broncos were denied a try through Walters earlier. Let's see what they can do in this set of 6. Langer, oh, that's a bad bit of play by Testman. They've lost the ball on the first tackle, and they are the mistakes that they can't afford to bring into their play once the Sydney Premiership gets underway.
Disappointing start this for the Broncos Day, because they've had all the running in this play. They've been down inside New Zealand's quarter, and it's only been through mistakes that they've been unable to get across the try line.
So New Zealand with a chance to try and work it out from their own line. Up towards the 22 is the prop forward Brown. Now they move it again. That's Bancroft with the kick in general play. Driving it downfield, Scott coming across it, takes it beautifully. Midway between the half of the 22, and he gets up over the halfway line. Colin Scott, a very sound display last week against Canberra, although before the match told me he was a little bit disappointed in some of the unforced errors he made during that match. It was a great clash between the two fullbacks, Scott and Belcher, last week. Here's G. Takes play up to 10 metres or 11 metres short of the quarter line. Langer now with a switch of play on the blind side, a stepping run. He nearly got through the gap. It was a beautiful tackle finally by the second row forward, Mark Woods. Now they move it again. It goes out through Madison, through Groff, and Groff steps back on that left foot and taken in the tackle. Still no score in this match, and there's 9 minutes gone in the first half. Kerrod Walters out now for Langer. There's the kick high in the air towards that far touchline. Up with the fullback Sutton. He's lost it. Finally retrieved with the pressure of Langer there, and it's finally the man that comes up with his Panapa. There's Langer in there again doing some good defensive work with Testman. Running from the play the ball situation is Horo, and he takes play to about 5 metres short of the quarter line at New Zealand's end of the ground. That's the big second row forward, Shane Hansen, from the Northcote club in Auckland tonight, having his first taste of representative football. Appears to be no early nerves in this New Zealand side, though, as Bancroft, a very confident little player, got the bounce, couldn't pick it up, and there should be a knock on each way. Referee Eddie Ward rules that way, and that's where we'll see the scrum go down. And as we welcome you back, Colin Scott making a great run in inroads into this New Zealand defence. There goes Gene Miles from dummy half, the one-handed pass back to Walters, to Terry Madison, and he's 11 metres short of the line. Walters again to dummy half. They got the numbers out wide. Langer with the long cut-out pass. Out for Walters. Brett Walters came back infield. Still a man to beat. Got through one. Finally held up by the wing three-quarter Mark Bourneville. And he's taken just 2 metres short of the line. Kerrod Walters a dummy half for Langer, for Groff. Groff with the long pass. That's Brett LeMan. Beautiful pass. Madison back infield LeMan. That is a great Broncos try, and they lead by 4 points to 0.
Wayne Bennett there, he'd be satisfied with their skills they showed there, because there's a good backup. Firstly, the great run to break the line by Madison. He timed his run to perfection, and who should be bobbing up on the inside but Brett LeMan. Been discussed during the week that Brett LeMan has been known as a tackling forward, where we're seeing plenty of attack from him this season. Here it is on the replay. Groff the pass out here to the second row onto Madison. Madison beautifully onto it, then stood up the fullback, fired it back on the inside to LeMan. LeMan there on the spot to finish it off. And it was very, very nicely done by the Broncos.
I think just rewards for LeMan. He deserved the try because it was his pass that put Madison through the gap. Watch it come up now. It's a great pass.
There he is. Held it up nicely to Madison. Madison sheds the first one. Stands up the fullback nicely. LeMan hadn't been put to the ground. Kiwis really have to put their man to the ground. LeMan there to back up nicely on the inside. Puts it down under the sticks.
All right, here it is from the head on now, and you'll see some nice passing coming in. There's Madison through, and a nice palm away too. Dodges, weaves, back inside. LeMan's on the spot. Groff was there also, you'll notice, if he was needed, but he said, go for your life. And away went Brett LeMan to put it down underneath the post.
So Terry Madison with a chance to convert the try that he had a big hand in. There's the kick. Up go the flags. So the Broncos lead the New Zealand President 13 by 6 points to 0. We've had 12 minutes of play gone in this first half.
Okay, let's get back here to the halfway mark. Well, that's more like it, Dave. We finally got those Broncos moving. A little bit reticent, lost a couple of chances early, but they set it up nicely there and really moved it along well.
The importance there, Bill, of getting toward the end of your 6 tackles. I think too often they lost ball in the early tackle count there in the early part of the game. They finally held the ball. They brought it to this side of the field first, got it back to the other, stretched the New Zealanders. A try eventuated.
Righto, here's Bancroft, the fiery little 5'8", who's put a little bit on early in this match tonight. Let's see what happens from here. There's the kick-off. And the ball carrying down there towards the toward the goal line, but it's going to be picked up there by young Michael Hancock, and we've been saying after last week we want to see him with a little bit of room to move. He's got some speed, and a penalty coming up to the Broncos. Referee Ward making it quite obvious, David, that he's not going to put up with anything in this match. He's ready for a bit of the rough stuff from the New Zealanders, and he's going to be sweating on them in that regard.
Well, that's good. We've come here to watch some football. There's Wardy telling him to keep the hands down. Let's have a look at it. There's Hancock. He was taken high, wrapped up reasonably well, but then over the top comes the front rower and the other second rower.
Tudor was the man who infringed on that occasion.
Penalties 5-1 in this first half, and that's the third penalty given for high tackling.
So that tells a bit of a story, doesn't it? So here's Groff kicking for touch. And it'll come up to midway between the quarter and halfway down in Broncos territory. They lead by 6 points to 0 here at Lang Park, and we've got 26.5 minutes remaining in this first half. So now they settle it down with Walters coming up as dummy half onto Dowling. Dowling up over the halfway. Tutar coming in over the top. The man underneath this time will be Horrow. Down to play it. Walters dummy half. LeMan, or rather up there is Tessman. Tessman put to the ground. Bancroft and the other little half there in Tutor combined to take care of him. Walters to Langer. Madison, the try scorer, cuts it out. Here's big Gino on the bustle, but decides to hang on to it. Well wrapped up at the tackle on that occasion. Coming in there from Barry Harvey.
Penalty here going to the Broncos. Miles had played the ball forward, and the marker wasn't directly in front of him, therefore an offside position. And the Broncos once again with an opportunity to go on the attack. They're going to call up Groff to kick for touch again, see if they can come up with another try.
Well, if they keep the pressure on this New Zealand team, if they happen to get another try in the next few minutes, it'll put some real pressure on them.
Certainly would. We haven't seen a lot of New Zealand in attack. After all, they have played just about the whole game down inside their own quarter, even in possession. So we've yet to see whether they can handle the ball themselves.
So Walters from the tap, across over there to Dowling, sends it back the other way to G. G's looking for someone running onto it, and he finds Johns over there. Johns will be tackled though. Harvey, the man underneath. G from dummy half. Back over out of Downing's hands. Spilled along from Walter's hands and eventually going to be dived on by Brett LeMan. So the Broncos retain possession, but a little bit sloppy. Langer outside to big Gene Miles, who's having a great start to this. Here's Langer coming through. Two to put him down, but he's tried to get the pass away. Ball rolled loose. Trying to get it over there was Brett LeMan, but it rolled loose and New Zealand end up with possession. So they'll try and ruck it out. The man with the ball at this stage is Shane Hansen. He'll play it now. Away from dummy half. It was turned away by Harvey. Gets it on to Bourneville, the winger. Don't know what he's doing in there, but he is. Out it comes to Woods. Woods wrapped up about 18 metres out from the New Zealand line. He'll play it. Away from dummy half. Harvey, the man, sending a crossover in centre field there. Trying to work his way up there for New Zealand was Hansen. Well, was the front row Tuta on that occasion. Here's a bit of a bus coming up. New Zealand on the way. And a nice tackle there as Horrow went to the ground a couple of metres short of the halfway. He'll play it. Away from dummy half is Harvey. Final tackle on the way. So Bancroft moves around on the blind side, puts a kick in, but he finds a Colin Scott who's in great touch tonight, and he starts to run it out nicely. Eventually going to be put down on the tackle coming about from Woods.
Problem with Bancroft's kicking, Billy, is he's putting too much elevation and they're going straight down Colin Scott's throat. He's got to get them on the ground, get them to bounce around a bit. Scotty's getting some pretty easy ball and opportunities to run, but what a great pass it was from Brown to put Horrow away to get him out of their own quarter.
So this is Madison with it, a couple of metres short of the halfway. Dummy half waiting for it is Boulders, decides to duck his way through. He's up over halfway. Tuta came out after him. The ball flies back. It'll be taken there by Downing, who in turn turns it back inside. Here's Colin Scott on the burst. Bumps him up over there to Tuta and eventually smashed to the ground. A couple of metres inside New Zealand territory. Tuta the man to do it. He let him know all about it on that occasion. Back over this time to Groff. The kick coming through. Going back there is Sutton for New Zealand. Is he going to catch it? He's diving at it. He misses and it's into touch. Only a few metres from the New Zealand line.
And did he touch it before it went into touch? Let's have a look at the touch, Judge. He hasn't signalled over the top of his head that it was touched by New Zealand, so they'll still have loose head and feet.
And I think they need it too, this race.
They do.
Let's have a look at it now as the scrum packs down. Two to the dummy, the half-back. It's going to be picked up at the back of the scrum there by Horrow. He'll play it now. New Zealand will attempt to ruck it out. Now penalty New Zealand. Broncos up there, well inside the distance.
Inside the 5 metres. They really hadn't got back after that scrum. They were a bit slow to get back into position, but one of the few penalties. There it is. Here's the replay. Eddie Ward looks behind him, picks up that they were in an offside position on that blind side. The little halfback ducked out of there nicely, Tuta. But boy, is this a relieving penalty for the Kiwis. They're yet to really get attacking ball, and we're yet to see whether they can handle the ball themselves. Normally the Kiwis can.
All right, it's Harvey who took the tap, sent it back over there to the front rower in Tuta. From the play, the ball out to Bancroft. Bancroft gets it away, turning it nicely. Panapa onto Rapati. Rapati's got some pretty big raps on him from New Zealand.
Yeah, well, he comes from a great family, a tradition of Rapatis. I think about five or six brothers, so he's certainly had plenty of practice.
That's Bourneville sending it back inside. Going to the ground with it will be fullback Sutton, getting up to play it away from dummy half. Harvey again, swinging it away. Coming up there for New Zealand is Hansen. Try to get the pass back, it rolls loose. Sutton ends up with it, he gets it onto Bourneville. Bourneville straight ahead, cuts back inside. Big Gene Miles is there, but he gets a pass back to Sutton. That was good work. Sutton in turn, driven into touch. Got the pass back inside, ball rolling loose, but eventually I'd say it's Harvey coming away with it. Yes, he is. Another 5, right, there's Bancroft. Well, that was the 5. Bancroft kicking it back, straight back to Colin Scott again. He said, thanks very much, you can do that all night if you like. And a running across field, eventually put down by Panapa. Get up to play it. Groff is the dummy half, swinging it wide. Brett LeMan loves to have a bit of a run, and that's what he's doing. Eventually put to the ground in the tackle over there from Woods. Playing it now. Broncos with a lead of 6-0 at Lang Park. Langer, little chip forward, following out after it. Coming through is Keith G. Dives at it, gets it. Good work.
Well, that's sacrificial stuff, that one from G. Went right there under a boot to make sure he got it, and the Broncos charge on.
Yes, Madison getting his pass back over there to Groff. Groff juggled a little bit, decided to cut back in. He's going to get ambushed in there if he keeps going, and he does. Coming it over the top is Brown to put him down. They're almost to the New Zealand quarter line. Langer, G. Gee, that was good stuff from G. Coming out this time to Chris Johns. Johns trying to get away around the corner, but just couldn't. Final tackle, and the dummy half is G, waiting for it now. He'll swing it across on then to Langer. Langer, little kick forward again. He's followed. Oh, he's tripped, is he? Or did he just lose his footing? Going to be picked up by Bancroft. It was a trip, because there's the penalty.
There's the little fella Langer. Geez, he kicked that well too, Bill, because when he went through the right-hand side of the ruck, hooked it back over to make sure the ball bounced. See how that he hooked it across his shoulder, made sure the ball bounced, and there he was, definitely tripped. Eddie Ward on the spot again to pick it up. penalty to the Broncos. Let's see what they're going to do this time. Walters is going to take the tap, I'd say.
Yes.
The Broncos to charge on.
Madison just walked away, so they're going to keep the pressure on again. This is Langer. Langer on to Groff. Groff outside of Gino, who tried to pass it before he had it. Ball rolls loose. Coming in from the wing over there to quickly take it will be Hancock.
Well, they lack depth there. It really looked like an indecisive tap, that one. If they'd have been nice and deep, they would have had room to move. Miles was under pressure just as he was getting the ball, and an error results.
Scrum to pack down. A couple of metres inside the quarter of New Zealand. Whole thing collapsing. Referee Woody Ward asked to put it in again. New Zealand, by the way, in international numbering. That means you lock forward is number 13. So that's the little halfback going around with it. Tuta on the blind side. He'll play it. Away from dummy half this time. Running around there is Rapati. He's lost the ball. It's going to be picked up by the Broncos. Out to G. G gets it on to Madison. Madison through the gap, going for the line. Try number 2 for the Broncos. In he goes.
This guy can play. Wally Lewis making a comment there. A great satisfaction. He knows he's got some players around him with a lot of ability. And this is certainly one of them. Madison from Eastern Suburbs last season shows that he can also finish things off. He set up the pass for LeMan previously for the first try, and he was there to finish this one off beautifully and showed just enough pace to initially go through the gap, and then the cover defence in trying to grasp to get him, couldn't quite get a hold of him. Let's have a look at it. Mistake there. The Broncos onto it quickly. There's LeMan. He keeps the ball rolling. Look at G. This guy is a good ball handler. Madison into the gap. Key play that. He was through the gap, through the defensive line, scoots away to put it down. It'll look good from head on. We'll see how Madison runs to the gap. Scoots away from the defence. Couldn't get to him. Was the number 4 Panapa, and there's Madison to get across for a good try.
So now taking over after scoring a try, Madison having to line up for the shot at goal. I think he would like a bit of a breather there because they've been pretty active for the last 10 minutes or so.
He's a good running back rower, this guy. I really like the look of him. He can handle the ball, but also when he gets the opportunity to run, he's an all-round player. He can finish off himself.
Not only that, he's got a few players around him, such as LeMan and G, who both can do things to get them moving. So there's a lot of mobility around there at the back of that
It's
scrum.
a good back row, certainly, and they put pressure on Billy Noak. He's been relegated to the reserves for tonight's game, and also on the reserves bench is Mark Hone, who had an outstanding game in reserve grade last Saturday night.
And of course, Grant Rick's trying to force his way back into this team as well for the opening match against Manly.
Doesn't look as though you can have an injury at the moment if you're a back rower.
And that's what happened to Ricks. His knee's blown up, so he'll be out for a little while.
Right, here's Madison attempting to convert the try. It's on its way. It's going to be away to the right and a little bit short. So the score here at Lang Park, 18 minutes of the first half remaining, and Brisbane Broncos leading New Zealand by 10-0.
And as we welcome you back to Lang Park here in Brisbane, the Broncos in the lead by 10 points to 0. Bancroft with the kick-off again. Colin Scott allowed it to bounce for Hancock, but one point I'd like to bring up that David Wright spoke about earlier, the tactical kicking of Bancroft, every time he's put it down the throat of Colin Scott is a confidence player, and all he's done tonight, David, is boosted that confidence.
Yeah, it certainly makes it a lot easier. Of course, the rugby league ball being that odd shape, it's got to hit the ground. A good kick is one that does hit the ground, and a roll around awkwardly, and it buys you time for your chasers to get up there. It's going straight down Scotty's throat. He's got 15 metres to get into stride, and he's doing some damage in that.
Well, Terry Kennedy down on the touchline. What's the latest down there?
Well, Photo, Greg Dowling just came to the sideline during that try and asked if they would continue with the kicks. Coach Wayne Bennett said just take the easy ones and keep the game rolling. So the Broncos are very confident they can keep the tries going.
Well, here's the pass that goes astray. Rapati couldn't pick it up. And finally, Johns does, but he's driven into touch on this commentary side of Lang Park. Terry, I noticed that Wally Lewis is over there. Did you get a chance to speak to him before the match? How keen is he to get out on the field?
Well, I spoke to Wally yesterday. He's very keen to get out on the field, but the Kiwis are going into these tackles very hard, and I'm sure their number one hit when Wally gets out there will be Wally Lewis. So I'm not too sure how keen he is at the moment.
Wally Lewis in jersey number 30. I never thought I'd see the day, Billy.
Yeah. They tell me number 6 doesn't fit him. They're going to have to get a bigger one for him for next week because that's what he'll be wearing. Penalty here gone to the New Zealanders for the Broncos being offside at the base of the scrum. Of course, you must stand behind the last line of forwards in the scrum until the ball comes out.
So Harvey, the captain of this New Zealand side, with a tap restart, turning it straight on to Tuta, the switch of pass. There it goes on to Horo, and Horo stands in the tackle, got the pass back to Bourneville. So Harvey now with the dummy half roll. Tuta, cut out pass, Panapa, got the pass back in field. Finally taken by the number 10, Russell Tuta. In fact, there's a replacement on there. It's Graham Huggins who's come onto the field. Huggins, of course, a former junior Kiwi, Equally at home as second row hooker will pick up exactly where he's playing. The Toro for Bancroft, the stepping run by the centre three-quarter Canipa. He's taken midfield. He's up quickly for the play the ball. They still go towards that side. Brown back into Harvey, and he's taken in the tackle number 5. Final tackle for the Kiwis. 5 metres out from the quarter line of Broncos into the ground. It's hoisted high in there. That's a better kick, making Scott run onto it. And he's come up with it.
Look at Scotty's night.
Colin Scott can't put a foot wrong tonight.
The girls love it.
Here's G, takes it to the 22.
Player off for New Zealand is number 12, Mark Woods. Mark Woods off and Huggins coming on.
Well, as I mentioned, Billy equally at home at second row or hooker, so he will move into the second row. Dowling takes play outside that danger area.
We're playing interchange players again tonight, as we did last week. It is only a trial match, so these players can come back on again if required.
Oh, Scott with confidence growing, had a bit of that taken away from him then. A very solid tackle midfield. Walters now goes on his own through the dummy to Langer. Now Langer in possession of the ball, gets up over halfway, good stepping run. Finally picked off by the second row forward Hanson.
There's the Ipswich combination. They both played for Ipswich last year, played a lot of junior football together, Walters and Langer.
There's the kick inside the quarter line. Going back is Tom Sutton from the Mount Albert Club in Auckland. Nowhere to go. He's claimed by Johns and also by the lock forward Madison. So Bourneville, the man that goes into dummy half. Injured player back in field is Colin Scott. He really took a thumping when he ran that ball up a moment ago. That'll be a cruel blow to the Broncos if that injury is serious. He doesn't look all that good.
He's holding his ribs as Colin Scott, either heavily winded. There it is, Kenny Ra, just having a look at the ribs. It may only be winding, but he's calling for assistance, calling to Eddie Ward. So he wants the game stopped, but Eddie Ward at the moment busy. The touch judge running on here to stop the game, and good touch judge work here because Eddie Ward didn't notice that the Kenny Ra, the trainer, was calling for assistance. So the touch judge took the opportunity to get straight on there and get some urgent attention.
Well, what a cruel blow this will be for the Brisbane Broncos. Not so much tonight. I'm looking more towards next Sunday against Manly. Colin Scott has been in outstanding form in the 2 matches I've seen him play so far at 88. Terry Kennedy, what's the latest down there? We see a player warming up on the touchline.
Yeah, so actually at the moment 2 forwards are warming up on the touchline, Mark Hone and Billy Noak, but also looking to replace Colin Scott at the moment is Joe Kilroy. Joe is now doing his stretching exercise on the sideline along with Mark Hone and Billy Noak.
Well, there's the tackle we just saw in replay. He was very heavily hit by the second row forward Hanson, and over the top was the replacement player Graham Huggins. But Scotty is to his feet, and that's a good sign, and it appears that he wants to stay on. So
must have been just winding well, Dave, and for anyone who has been winded at that stage, you feel like you can't get your next breath. And
he looks pretty good, David.
Yeah, he's come up well.
And I think he wants to inject himself straight back into the play with the Brisbane feed.
As we've said too, Dave, the way things are with competition for spots, I wouldn't be letting Joe Kilroy on there to play fullback tonight either.
That's exactly right. And Scott immediately comes back into the play, and he takes it straight up to the lock forward Horro before he's claimed in the tackle. 13 minutes of play remains in this first half, and it's 10 points to 0 in favour of the Brisbane Broncos. That's Gene Miles to dummy half as Walters, threw the dummy to G and gave it to LeMan. He stood in the tackle. That's a loose pass, shoveled away again. It's been knocked on. Eddie Ward on the spot to play the knock on, and this Brisbane side intent on keeping that ball alive.
They have shown good skills. They haven't been able to control it right through the whole passage of players. We've got another player down injured.
Greg Dowling is the injured player.
Geez, they're going for the big names.
Well, that's something we don't need at this stage either, is it?
So Greg Dowling, a player with a wealth of experience. 12 test matches, made his debut in 1984. 11 State of Origin debut games. Again, made his State of Origin debut in the same year. And what a great player he's been for Australia and for Queensland.
Certainly has, and he came back from that broken leg there early in his career. He came down from North Queensland. I can recall the first Queensland game that Greg Dowling played, and he wasn't very fit. He'd come down from North Queensland, made it from the country, and he got out there and actually tore them apart in the first half, and then ran out of puff. They replaced him, but certainly he was earmarked for greater things right at that time. Then we've got a couple of replacements on the touchline. There's Joe doing a bit of stretching.
Wally looking on in the background.
Wally in the background. He's quite happy to sit it out at this stage. He wants a bit of the heat to go out of the New Zealand defence. Here it is. It was scrappy. There's Dowling trying to pick up the loose ball. He knocked it on. Oh, the knee. The knee right into the side.
That's probably a bruised hip, actually, David.
Yeah,
and they also can be very, very painful as well. GD taking a fair bit of time to recover. He's as tough as teak, though. He loves playing against the Kiwis. And the last thing he'd want to do is go off against this mob tonight, I can tell you that. Someone may pay for that dearly before this match is out.
Well, Wayne Bennett hasn't been messing around. He's had 3 players on that touchline warming up for about the last 5 minutes now. He's got the two-way ready to pass on some information if needed.
There's the scrum win. Tuta wrapping around his man. Scott is up there on the blind side to effect a tackle with Hancock. So the Kiwis, who have yet to put any points on the board. Now they move it again. That's the prop forward, Brown. And it appears that Marty Creaker might also be on the field for the New Zealand side. I'll bring you up to date with that in a moment. Creaker, of course, is a utility back who toured Great Britain with the Kiwis in '85. He's yet to play in a test match. Scrum about 3 metres inside. Yes, in fact, it is Marty Creaker on the left wing wearing number 14. So it appears that Aramoana has been taken off the field. There's the scrum feed. It was away with Langer to Groff. Scott wraps around. Groff through the dummy, came back infield, but he's met with a wall of defenders from New Zealand. Walters again. Got the pass away to Brett LeMan. Stepped off the left foot. Got the pass to Miles. Miles has picked off beautifully with a low tackle from the centre three-quarter Panapa. The Broncos on the move again. Walters skirts that blind side. Takes it to about 2 metres short of the quarter line. It's 11 minutes of play remaining in this first half. It's 10-0 the scoreline. It goes out through Langer. A long pass. With no cut-out pass, and that's Johns who hit it strongly. Beautiful play. That's Groff. Groff's got support of Walters. Walters came inside. He took the wrong option. It's back with Scott. Scott linked up beautifully, but he's taken over the top of the tackle by Peter Brown.
I should have made more of that. The try was on offer.
Now Langer. Groff. Groff came infield again. The New Zealand defence standing the test on the final tackle now. That's Brett Walters on his own, a dummy half. He's lost the ball, and it goes into touch about 2 metres short of the New Zealand line, with the New Zealanders trailing by 10 points to 0.
I don't want to make this many errors next week against Manly. Of course, that's the Sunday evening they play next week, but there's been far too many fundamental errors from the Broncos. Groff, I thought, at fault there. Walters, I thought, had positioned himself quite well back on the inside, and Groff got lost.
Here's Brendan Tuta, the halfback for New Zealand to feed. By golly, he's put a bit of stick on in there tonight, hasn't he?
Me as well.
By golly, they know he's about. Going to go Walters just a short time back. Anyway, New Zealand in possession.
That's the tradition of the Kiwis, of course, especially their halfbacks. Clayton Friend, we saw him plenty of times last season. He doesn't mind putting a bit in as well.
That's Bourneville, the winger, coming in, but he got driven back in the tackle. Coming at him quite solidly on that occasion was Brett LeMan. Away from the play the ball this time, back over in centre field. That'll be coming up there, Tuta. That's the front row, Russell Tuta. Back inside, cutting his way through that time is Brown. New Zealand midway between the quarter and halfway down inside their own territory. Final tackle. There's Bancroft, so we'll see a bit from him. He runs round, he decides now, he puts the kick in. Colin Scott back there and says, thank you very much, and away he goes again.
Scotty's got an agreement with him.
Might be a deal going on here, though.
He said, make me look good tonight.
He puts his hand up and says, here I am.
Alrighty, away from dummy half this time. Brett Walters can't get too far. Walters there this time, however. Taken in the tackle, though, by Horo. Puts him to the ground. Dummy half getting pegged there by the lock forward. Played forward, knocked it on.
Well, Walters disappointed with himself there, because when he tried to get out of dummy half, it was Horo very quickly onto him, and still with that frustration, got up to play it forward. Here it is. What's the little knock on? First of all, he gets knocked to the ground. Then he gets up, touches it with his foot, touches it with his hand. There's the knock on. Scrum to pack.
Well, Terry Kennedy, replacements in the Brisbane Broncos side. I notice that G and Testman are coming off. Who are the replacements?
Coach Wayne Bennett has just made 3 changes, with Michael Hancock coming off and Joe Kilroy coming on. And, of course, G and Testman, as you said, David, coming off, with Billy Noak and Mark Hearn going on.
Alrighty, so he's had those warming up there for a while. Now it's New Zealand in possession. Panapa getting it away to Rapati. Rapati running around a bit. Miles is out after him. And eventually going to be put to the ground over there will be Huggins. First bit of action we've seen from New Zealand, bringing the crowd alive a little bit around here. From the play, the ball coming back this time to Hansen. Couple of metres short of that quarter line now. From the play, the ball, Tudor getting it back behind Bancroft. The ball rolling loose, going back to dive on top of there for New Zealand will be Huggins. From the play, the ball, back it goes then to Horo. Horo put over 30 metres from the Broncos line. The Broncos leading by 10 points to 0 at the moment. 8.5 minutes remaining in this second half. Back over then to Tuta. Tuta put down. The man coming in underneath this time will be Madison. Final tackle. Let's see what they do with it. Bancroft puts in a little grubber kick this time. That's something a bit different. Smoke and Joe gets it for the first time. Goes a couple of metres before he's put over.
What do you say? All bets are off now.
Yeah, leave me alone, will you? Right, back it comes to Scott this time, running it up, but he's going to be tackled, put down. From the play the ball now. Walters is dummy half onto Langer. Langer getting it across to Groff. Groff outside this time to Chris Johns. Johns starting to motor up over the quarter line. Flying tackle coming in this time from the halfback, and Tudor came at him, and also getting into the tackle there will be that Huggins into it. From the play the ball now. It's the Broncos in possession.
I also noticed, Billy, that James Paikea has come onto the right wing to replace Mark Bourneville.
Okay, number 15 is Paikea. Here's Sutton with it. Sutton going to be put to the ground, and the tackle from Groff. Bancroft from dummy half. They swing it away. That is the man with it, Paikea. Wrestled to the ground this time by Mark Holmes. He'll play it. Dummy half waiting there for it this time is Harvey. Harvey gets it across. Hanson. Harvey again as dummy half. 10 metres inside Broncos territory. Tudor gets it on then to Huggins. From the play the ball. New Zealand working it across field. Players coming in from all directions.
Colin Dawson's on there now too in 17.
17 is Dawson.
There's the drop goal attempt, and it's wide of the mark. Colin Scott will allow it to go dead in goal, so no change to the scoreline. It's still 10-0 in favour of the Brisbane Broncos.
Oh, noticeable there. There's the 5'8 Bancroft, but noticeable that we've got a representative side out here, the New Zealand side. Wouldn't have played a match together before, and they're having a bit of trouble with their combination. Can't get any real teamwork together, and finding it difficult to string together the passes and make progress.
That's Walters the dummy half. Switch of play now. Centre field midway between the half to 22. The Broncos in the lead by 10. 2 tries to 0. One was scored by Terry Madison, the man that unloaded that pass. The other was scored by Brett LeMan, but Madison had a big hand in that one as well. He's one of the good buys for the Broncos in 88. Through Groff. It goes out through the centre three-quarter. Johns, beautiful step. Oh, he's through. Johns, support. Great pass, it's gone astray. Picked up by Colin Scott, but Eddie Ward says play the knock on. And that was a chance that went begging.
It was. What a run by Chris Johns. Isn't he a class play? This fella came from St George. There's the Broncos bench. We've got Scotty there standing there on camera. He's looking for an opportunity to make a break down the blind side of the scrum as New Zealand have won it. But boy, we talk about good buys. Madison certainly is one day, but also Chris Johns. What a class partner he is for Gene Miles.
Paikea plays the ball. That's Huggins taking it up this commentary side touchline at Lang Park. He's met in the defence of Brett LeMan. Harvey again to Bancroft. That's onto Dawson. That's good, solid defence by the Brisbane Broncos. Big Gene Miles over the top. And underneath was Greg Dowling. Tudor to Bancroft. Beautiful pass that time. The wrap around, but confusion in the New Zealand backline. And the referee once again will play the knock on about 8 metres inside New Zealand's end of the ground.
Once again, we see them not just quite putting together those passes. It looked pretty good for a while, but then the lost ball.
Terry, there's been plenty of activity down on the touchline.
Well, actually, Fordo, Wally Lewis has just said that he thought the New Zealand 5'8 who had the shot for the field goal must have had himself in the doubles.
It was a very adventurous one. From about 45 metres out, the man that's going to kick for touch is the man that Wally was talking about, Bancroft. There's the kick. And it takes play about 12 metres inside Brisbane Broncos end of the ground.
And at this stage, 4.5 minutes remaining in this, the first half of the Broncos with a lead of 10 points to 0. And taking it up there for New Zealand this time will be Brown, the front rower. He'll be tackled. Can New Zealand get any points before half-time? That's the big question at the moment. Trying to crash his way through up there is Dawson. Dawson put over about 24 metres out from the Broncos line. They work the blind side. Bancroft gets it across to Panama, then Rapati. Rapati held up and into touch over there. They finally just got him in. It must have been momentarily.
Just had the foot on the touchline as we get another player warming up, and it's Bourneville.
Looks like coming back on.
We say interchange players available, but that's a bad mistake, that one from New Zealand. They can ill afford a simple error on the early tackle count.
Alan Langer about to feed. In she goes, right on the Broncos quarter line. New Zealand going to win it against the head by the look of it, against the feed. Yes, they do. Bancroft gets it around of Tudor. Tudor will be put to the ground. Still about 23 metres out from the Broncos line. 3.5 minutes of the half-time break. New Zealand desperate for a try before half-time. Back there with it this time will be Horo.
Eddie Ward has warned the Brisbane backs to get well inside outside that 5 metres. He's right onto them.
And a couple of them not quite making it back the full distance either. This is Hanson. Hanson about to play it. Dummy half. Waiting there is Harvey. Harvey gets it away to Brown. Back inside it goes this time to Huggins. New Zealand making some headway. Can they set it up for the try? Let's have a look as Harvey comes in as dummy half for penalty New Zealand. We'll let him put the ball up there.
Well, 3 minutes up to half-time. They're going to take the quick tap. Good backline set.
And a long one coming across over there to Panapa, then on to Rapati. Rapati running around. He pushed away the tackle of Gene Miles. Still going is Rapati. Now a pass is going to be knocked down, but he's into touch over there anyway.
Once again, New Zealand fields must be a bit wider than this Lang Park one. They've certainly been in touch a few times. Plenty of Kiwi supporters here tonight.
Greg Dowling
is down injured.
He's slowly getting back onto his feet.
I would suggest if that is the situation that Bennett should replace him. It's all too important next week.
Give him a spell, but the big fella must have been in good cover defence to get across there to make sure Rapati was in touch.
And going around the blind side is Tuta. Tuta going to be held up. Now working back in field, pushing away at Langer. Here's New Zealand on the bustle. That's Bancroft, head down, trying to find a way through, but can't. He'll get up to play it, and away from dummy half. Getting across on this time, they're running around, but eventually the man ending up, and it will be Peter Brown. Brown held up, he'll play it. Dummy half waiting there for it is Harvey. Harvey swings it across. Hanson is there, but Hanson wrapped up and thrust into the ground. No chance of getting the pass away on that occasion. That's what the Broncos have got to do. Keep them out. There's one or just under 2 minutes to go. Back it comes to Panapa. Panapa tries to put a little kick, has another shot at it, then eventually comes out to Paikea. Paikea with it. New Zealand play on another 6 tackles. This is a big chance for them now. The crowd's starting to come alive. Away from dummy half, turning around is Panapa. Panapa going to be held up a couple of metres out from that line. He'll play it. Dummy half waiting is Harvey. Harvey sending it back over there to Tuta. Bancroft. Bancroft to who? Gets it away. Going to be lost on this occasion by Huggins. And it'll be Broncos possession.
Great defence, the Broncos. They're under enormous pressure there. New Zealand finally did hold the ball for an extended period of time, but the Broncos, once again, backs to the wall, has shown they're going to be very stout in defence.
So they'll ruck it out now, take it up. That's Greg Dowling charging up towards the quarter line before he'll be put down. About to play it away from dummy half Walters. Nobody too much interested in going with him there, so I decided he'd have to go himself. Dowling will be the dummy half. That's the Broncos quarter line you can see there, and there's 1 minute to go in this first half. Taking it up solidly for them on that occasion is Mark Hone. Kick downfield, going back there is Sutton, the New Zealand fullback. He'll eventually take it 15 metres out from his own line, turns around and starts to run. That's the quarter line you can see. Can't get away from a nice tackle coming around this time by, up there will be Hone rather. From the play the ball now. New Zealand still about 20 metres short of halfway. Their big chance for a try, I would say, going out the window there.
Yeah, only seconds remaining now, and they'll still got a chance to probably put the ball in the air in the next few seconds, but really this Broncos defence has been strong. They've kicked well too. Far better kicking game in general play than what we've seen from the New Zealanders, and they've made sure they've made good territory with the kick.
This is Tuta. Tuta about 8 metres short of halfway now. Final tackle. Yeah, Greg Dowling with some blood coming from his mouth, but he's still going to keep on going. That's Bancroft putting it in. Smoke and Joe back there for the Broncos. There's the halftime hooter sounding in the background. He decides to have a little bit of a run. Straight ahead he goes, and eventually pulled to the ground over there by Rapati. And halftime at Lang Park, and the Broncos have a lead over the New Zealand Presidents 13 to the tune of 10 points to 0.
Well, as the cheer girls go through their motions here at Lang Park, it's very interesting to look at some of these statistics of the first half.
What of the match or the girls?
Mainly the match, William, I think, at this stage.
Okay.
At this time of the night, I think we'll stick to that. It's interesting to note that the Broncos are leading by 10 points to 0. 2 tries and 1 goal from Terry Madison. The scrums, we notice here 8-4 in favour of New Zealand. The penalties favouring Brisbane 7-5. But the interesting thing is the error rates there on both sides, David Wright.
Yeah, I think both sides have been at fault. We look at the Kiwis, of course, they've got an excuse. It is a representative side, and for that reason, they haven't got the combination. But a couple of times we've seen good passes from the big fella Brown. I've been impressed with him. The big front rower wearing number 8. We remind you that New Zealand have got international numbers, and just to confuse you, the Broncos have got the normal Australian numbering. There's the first half tackle count. Dowling, although he was down injured a couple of times, he's made 10 tackles. Let's remember, one of the ones he was injured was a cover defending tackle on one of the wingers, so he's keen this year. Walters, Stephen Walters, the winger, that's probably Kerrod, I'd say, that's probably done those number of 7 tackles. Madison, 7 also. Hanson, the big, the forward, he's also knocked up plenty. Horro and Tutua.
And as we return to Lang Park, you might see some smoke out there. It's not from the first half of the match, it's from a half-time display of fireworks, which really had the crowd going. The Broncos leading by 10-0. Terry Kennedy's down on the touchline. Interesting development at the half-time break, and it concerns that man on camera now. Wally Lewis on the field.
Yes, of course, we have Wally Lewis on the field and Craig Roth is on the sideline. Also on the sideline is Brett Lamar, and on there is Billy Noak.
All right, so that's the couple of changes at the halftime break. That's the Broncos bench. You can see them there. Greg Dowling still there. He's keen to get back into it. And listen to the crowd starting to liven up for the second half of this match.
Interesting to see that they've used Lewis in this particular game. When he had the operation on his knee, it was only a minor one, but it was done about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and it was thought that he would not be available at the earliest until the Manly game next week. But he's trained strongly. He had a test on the knee against a machine out at the university last week, and his injured knee was stronger than the other one. That often happens with physiotherapy, where you concentrate your work on the injury.
Could be a great trivia question in years to come, Billy. What number did Wally Lewis wear against New Zealand at Lang Park?
Number 30.
His first game for the Broncos.
Righto, Madison ready to kick off. Broncos with a half-time lead of 10 points to 0. There it is. Carrying down over there towards the winger coming in Paikia. He'll run it out, get it up to just about the quarter line before he'll be put down to the Broncos defence. Keaty getting into the tackle there. I can just see through the smoke to that side of the ground. And it's New Zealand attempting to rock it out now. Bringing it up this time is Hansen. 23 metres out from the New Zealand line. Well, what would do you think they'll be saying over there at the half-time break, Tony Gordon, the coach to this New Zealand team, Dave?
Well, he'd be looking for a little bit more ball control. I think he'd certainly be looking for a better kicking game. Let's see if Bancroft has sorted out. Hallelujah, it's hit the ground. It's a much better kick, and let's watch now. The chasers have got time to get up there. That's the key. He hasn't put it straight down the throat of the fullback, so Gordon would have concentrated on that. Bancroft's carried out his instructions, and the other thing he would have concentrated on as New Zealand... well, as the ball is lost there in the tackle, Eddie Ward's going to pack a scrum. I think Gordon would have concentrated on those two things. Bennett, I would think, would have been very emphasising very much the importance of the early minutes of this of the second half, not to let New Zealand back into the game as a differential penalty for the ball coming straight back out of the scrum goes to the Broncos.
That ball was lost over there by Michael Hancock, so he's back onto the field now with Walters going off. We've got Smoke and Joe Kilroy on the wing on the other side. So there's Walter Lewis kicking for touch.
Testing the right knee out straight away with the kicking game.
We want to see him test it out with a bit of stepping upfield. That's what we want. Right, here's the Broncos in possession, midway between the quarter and halfway, down to New Zealand territory, and that's Dowling. Dowling through and put to the ground. Getting around into the tackle up there was Huggins. From the play the ball, this is little Alan Langer. Gee, there's a couple of high ones coming in, but he still manages to unload. Getting away to Walter. Walter sends it across field to G. G with a long one, going to be intercepted. Coming through this time is Creeker. Creeker put to the ground by Keith G.
Penalty going to New Zealand for G lying over the tackle. He's going to be called up by Eddie Ward too. But beautiful tackle from G. He was in good position to recover it. Let's have a look. He threw the pass. Why wouldn't he get there quickly to make sure he made the tackle? Covered his error pretty well. Then lay all over him because, of course, the Broncos weren't back to make the tackle. Penalty to New Zealand. And one of the few times in the game they didn't get many chances to attack. Let's see how they go in the second half.
Right, they're 10 metres inside the Broncos territory as they take the tap. Coming back over there this time to Brown. Brown wrapped up at the tackle. He'll play it. Dummy half is Harvey, their test hooker. He'll swing it back over there to Tudor. Tudor sends it on then to Dawson. Dawson straight ahead. Nice tackle coming around this time for the Broncos, but they play on now. On it comes to Panapa. Panapa going to be put to the ground about 30 metres out now from the Broncos line. He'll play it. Dummy half is Harvey. Harvey scratching around for it. Back to Tudor. Tudor straight ahead. He'll be put to the ground.
Lewis 2 tackles in a row. That's enough, Wally. Just hang out for a while now.
Don't go over the top. This is Dawson with it. They're getting up to the quarter line with the final tackle on its way. Harvey is the dummy half. Where's Bancroft? There he is. And he swings it back inside this time to Panapa. Panapa with a long one that's going to roll loose. Can't be picked up. Eventually they do, and they pass to no one, and it's into touch.
Well, we're following on from the first half. They just can't get the people in the right places at the right time. There's Tony Gordon. He'd be disappointed, the New Zealand coach, because...
He didn't know he had the invisible man on that wing. That's obvious story.
Peter Brady out here again, but New Zealand just not getting the guys in position at the right time. They're showing some good ball handling skills as another penalty goes to the Broncos for collapsing the scrum. Oh no, a little hand in the scrum there. The signal goes for the front row. As the temptation is always there if you see the ball just below you, just to give it a little bit of a helping hand out the back. The big front rower there in Peter Brown. There it is on the deck. Don't touch it, boys.
Can't see a great deal on that. There's too many legs. The quarter line with the final tackle on its way. Harvey is the dummy half. Where's Bancroft? There he is. and he swings it back inside this time to Panapa. Panapa with a long one that's going to roll loose, can't be picked up. Eventually they do, and they pass to no one, and it's into touch.
Oh, we're following on from the first half. They just can't get the people in the right places at the right time. There's Tony Gordon. He'd be disappointed, the New Zealand coach, because
he didn't know he had the invisible man on that wing. That's obvious story.
Peter Brady out here again, but New Zealand just not getting the guys in position at the right time. They're showing some good ball handling skills. There's another penalty goes to the Broncos for collapsing the scrum. Oh no, a little hand in the scrum there. The signal goes for the front row. As the temptation is always there if you see the ball just below you, just to give it a little bit of a helping hand out the back. The big front rower there in Peter Brown. There it is on the deck. Don't touch it, boys.
Can't see a great deal on that. There's too many legs and things in there. So it's the Broncos finding touch midway between the quarter and halfway down inside their own territory. They retain their half-time lead at this stage of 10 points to 0. Broncos getting penalties now by 9-6. That's Dowling with it. Dowling a couple of metres short of halfway. Dummy half is Walters. Walters will swing it away. Here's the big burst coming through. Sliding upfield there will be Billy Noak. Noak knows that he's got to pull out a big second half because there's been some top performances by those back rowers early, as we spoke about. Langer getting it away to Lewis. Lewis straight ahead, takes him head on and crash to the ground. Into the tackle coming up there was Huggins. He'll play it now. Slowly getting back onto his feet, taking plenty of time is Lewis. Back over to Langer. Langer dodging, weaving, finds big Gino. Gino, oh, he was just about going to let it go, but put to the ground. He'll get up and play it. They're just inside the quarter line, but he's going to rule a knock on him there. Okay, so the scrum about to pack down 20 metres out from the Broncos line. Let's have a look. Oh, he's lost it completely there. Terry Kennedy down on the touchline. What have you got for us,
yes, as you can just see, Greg Dowling has signalled he wanted to come off, and Andrew Tessman has come on for GD.
Righto, here we go. New Zealand getting the scrum. Getting over to Bancroft. Bancroft nowhere to go because King Wally's right on top of him. Come here, mate. Away you go. Panapa the dummy half, but they've lost it, kicked away, and it's a Broncos ball. No centre on there, and he's made his presence felt already. Billy Noak plays it. Madison, who scored a try already for the Broncos. He'll be wrapped up some 18 metres out from the New Zealand line. So now they swing it back. This is Tessman. Tessman trying to find a way through, but can't make his way through there. Going to be put to the ground by Horan. He'll play it. Walters up his dummy half, swings it away to Langer. Langer outside to Lewis. Lewis spins it away. Colin Scott into the back line. He'll be tackled though. Taken up there by Hansen. Knocked away over there, is it? It's a New Zealand ball. Yes, it is. And Paikea was the man who went up with it over there, but he's played it, and that's the halfback Tudor coming through.
And he's lost it, but Eddie Waters decided that there was interference in that play the ball. Gene Miles. There's Colin Scott limping. Kenny Ra's going to take him from the field straight away. That'll be a tragic loss if that's a serious injury. Colin Scott, who has had knee problems in previous seasons, has been playing very strongly over the last 12 months. Hasn't had those knee problems. It would have appeared that he'd completely recovered from that, but he's hobbling quite badly. Replacement on for the Broncos. Joe Kilroy drops back to fullback.
And Walters goes to the wing. That'll be the story. Here's Tudor with it. Gets it away to Panapa. Panapa cuts out Rapati, but on it goes. Coming up nicely this time. Stretching out for New Zealand will be Krika. Krika cutting inside. But Lewis is over the top, and there's a Bronco going in underneath to pull him down, and it was Horn, I think. Horn, rather. He plays it anyway. Play goes on. New Zealand throwing it around, but now losing it. Towed through. Walters going out, or Hancock going out after it, but ending up with it for New Zealand was Dawson. Pretty scrappy stuff all the way around here, but eventually New Zealand with it a couple of metres inside Broncos territory.
Mark Hone was a player who's now getting some attention from the trainer, Kenny Ra.
He's had his work cut out tonight. He's been here, there and everywhere. So now New Zealand with it. Back they go to Tuta coming through. He's going to be put to the ground on the tackle.
They're calling for a replacement for Mark Hone.
So now back it comes to Bancroft. Bancroft getting it away then to Hora. Now the ball rolling loose. Towed through. Still being taken, but the player was tackled without the ball. I'd say held on to without the ball. The referee is going to call a halt to play because Hone is injured at the moment. Back down with Terry Kennedy again.
Yes, Billy Wally Lewis is down on the ground. He has signalled that he would want to come off. Brett Lamar is warming up on the sideline, and he's just about to run on. At the moment, Wally's still down there on the ground, and Brett Lamar is on the field. Not too sure who's coming off, but it looks for sure that Wally will be coming off.
That's Mark Hone down there on the ground at the moment.
Both with the same haircuts, Terry. I think that's the one that throws it away. That's the replacement player, Mark Hone. It looks as though there was a clash of heads, and that could well be a depressed fracture of the cheekbone, David, the way they're looking there.
I think he may also have a cut there as well. Kenny Ra having a close look at that left eye. You're right, Dave. It was a clash of heads when it was Creeker, I think, who made that break downfield. About 3 or 4 players converged on him. An accidental clash of the heads. Once again, we've seen the game held up to ensure that there's no serious injury. And Mark Hone getting back to his feet. Let's hope that he's okay. Looks like he's going to be replaced. They might take any chances this early stage as Mark Hone jogs off and Brett LeMahon has replaced him.
So we'll have the ball now by New Zealand. They're a couple of metres inside their own territory. Running around with the ball this time is Harvey. Harvey eventually put down. He'll play it. Dummy half is Tuta. Oh, they've lost it. Lost over there by Horo. So the Broncos with it. Lewis getting it away this time to Johns. Johns almost through. Centre pass back inside. It rolls on the ground. Walters having a crack at it, but eventually New Zealand will be with it. And that's the fullback Sutton ending up with it there right on the quarter line.
Not on Chris Johns, an impossible pass. The opportunity was created by a good break down that right-hand side. Quick to play the ball was all that was required. New Zealand back in possession, and they've turned it over again.
No change to the half-time scoreline. Bad pass, beautifully picked up by Tasman. That high-stepping knee action of Tasman takes play to the quarter line. Kept the pass alive. Here's a good break, a chance. Walters thrown to the ground. So the Broncos lined out an attack. 10 metres out. Lewis from dummy half for Langer. Langer through the dummy, but the defence of New Zealand is up quickly over the top in the form of Shane Hansen. Walters a dummy half. Out for Brett LeMahon. LeMahon through the pass. Back in from Madison. Stepping run this time. Billy Noak short of the line.
Intercepted by New Zealand. That last pass going astray again. New Zealand have lost it once again. They're interchanging the ball and the reserves in this particular game. But once again, the Broncos showing good attack, getting very close to the line. We saw Madison link nicely up the inside, but he just inside of the try line tried that pass again.
And I noticed Kerrod Walters limping to the scrum, the hooker for the Brisbane Broncos scrum feed. 3-4 metres out from the New Zealand line. Langer from the back of the scrum to Lewis. Oh, he cut Lewis out and took the tackle. The defence from New Zealand up quickly on the 10-metre line. Here's the break from the dummy half roll. A chance. It's a try to the Brisbane Broncos. And it's been scored by Michael Hancock. His first try for the Broncos since joining the club from Toowoomba.
Scintillating pace out of the dummy half was Michael Hancock, and he also showed good strength. He knew exactly what he wanted, and that was to get across the try line. Give me a player with that sort of determination and hunger to score tries. He'll do me, and that could quite easily make sure he gets a spot against Manly next week. Let's have a look at it. Alan Langer had protected Wally Lewis there by not giving him the dump. Then Hancock came in quickly and took off from dummy half with the step. The strength also breaks the tackle of Huggins, and he gets across from head on. Have a look at it. The power and the strength. There's the step to beat the fullback Sutton. Huggins can't hold him because he's too strong, and the young winger has got across for his first try for the Broncos. It won't be his last.
Well, Terry Madison now with the ball placed. It's 14 points to 0 in favour of the Brisbane Broncos. Madison so far has kicked 1 goal from 2 attempts. His second attempt was an inglorious one. He moves in now. He sneaks it over the crossbar. So the scoreline at Lang Park, 16-0 to the Brisbane Broncos. And as we welcome you back to Lang Park with 28 minutes remaining in this second half, it's 16 points to 0 in favour of the Brisbane Broncos. There's the restart of play by Bancroft. LeMahon takes play outside the 22. Walters, the man of dummy half, has appeared to have shaken off that leg injury. So 3 tries to 0. That's the story of the game. A lost ball by the Brisbane Broncos, but it's prompted the referee Eddie Ward to rule yet another penalty against the New Zealand side. So Colin Scott, it appears to be an ankle injury and not a knee. So the ankle is very heavily strapped. He looks reasonably comfortable there, Dave.
Yeah, Scotty says, I'll watch it from here now. There's ice packed around his ankle to ensure that the bleeding doesn't get any worse than what it is already. Keep the swelling down.
Wally Lewis's kick takes play 10 metres inside New Zealand's end of the ground. Walters with the tap restart. There's G. G takes it upfield. And I think, Billy, a little altercation on the hill.
Yes, I might get in some early practice for the Olympics a little later. There's a couple of big fellas having a go. They're the super heavyweights, I'd say, but the police seem to quieten it down a bit.
OK, Tasman now with the play the ball 10 metres out from the quarter line at New Zealand's end of the ground. Langer through to Lewis, out to Miles, the step off the left foot. Beautiful pass, Kilroy taken in the tackle as he joined the line. Takes play just short of the quarter line. And the Broncos on the attack again. It goes out through Lewis, held the pass up beautifully. Lovely pass from Lewis. G about 5 metres short of the line. So Wally Lewis looks in total confidence out there tonight. There's the pass again. Madison through the dummy back to Lewis. Walters about a metre short on the final tackle. What will the tactics of the Broncos be? Watch for Lewis. Little grubber kick through, but it's been reclaimed by New Zealand about 5 metres out from their own goal line, centre field.
And who should have been storming through for that grubber kick but Gene Miles. They've got great sense of timing, those two. They played a lot of football together and they were certainly on for the little grubber kick through.
James Paikea takes the tackle about 5 metres out from his own goal line. They trail by 16 points to 0, New Zealand. There's the run by the captain, by the Lockford Horo. And he's driven towards that far touchline here at Lang Park. Kiwis trying to work it out of the danger zone. Met with solid defence that time from Brett Lamar. Was the second row forward Woods. Harvey from dummy half. It goes out through Bancroft. This time he hoiks it downfield. Hancock is retreating, so too is Joe Kilroy. Kilroy picked it up well, about 10 metres out from his own 22, and takes play to about 5 metres of the halfway line. The tackle affected by Sam Panapa.
So Kilroy very keen to make every post a winner. He knows this is his chance to try and make the top side next week.
Lewis, pass now, out for Billy Note. Chris Johns had a bit of a clash in centre field with one of his Kiwi opponents, that's Tessman. Tucks the ball under one arm, stands very upright but he runs. Walters now a dummy half. It goes out through Langer, he's left it behind, scooped up by Lewis. Tried to bump out of one tackle, got it to his Kangaroo teammate Gene Miles. That's a great run by the big test centre. He unloaded the pass to Hancock, popped it back in for Walters, but the pass has been ruled forward. Great lead up by the Broncos, but good refereeing by Eddie Ward.
Right on the spot, Wardy. What a sensational run that one from Gene Miles, and it came about from Lewis being caught out in the back play here. There's Miles, look at this. Step off the right, then held it up, put the ball outside. There's the one back on the inside now to Walters. We just didn't quite get it. It was that last pass back to Walters that Wardy has ruled forward.
So New Zealand with the ball camped inside their own 22. They trail by 16 points to 0. The Broncos' final hit out before the Winfield Cup gets underway here at Lang Park next Sunday against Manly Warringah. And you can catch the highlights at 6:30 here on TVO. A big weekend of football. It's Eastern St George on Friday night at 8:30. It's Tweed Heads and Canterbury on Saturday night at the same time. We've got the hat trick for you, the trifecta of rugby league to open the 1988 rugby league season. The full matches that you'll see. New Zealand to the halfway line. That's a bone-jarring tackle from Wally Lewis. He says to the New Zealand captain Barry Harvey, a big welcome to Lang Park. Walters. Oh, a nasty bounce. But I think he might have had a little look.
Yeah, well, he was worried about the touchline too, Dave. He had one eye on the touchline, one eye on the football. It's pretty difficult. There it is, a little grubber kick through. Let's have a look. This will be a great shot, this one. There it is, just juggles it, tries his best to get a hold of it again. Just out of his grasp, the knock on.
So 2 to work the scrum for New Zealand. 23 minutes of play remain in this second half. The significant thing is for the Broncos that Wally Lewis appears to have come through this trial brimful of confidence.
New Zealand players offside there after knock-on. Couldn't pick it up. Langer certainly did.
That's Laman. Out pass for Miles and then a Johns. Oh, great break by Chris Johns into open space. Through the dummy. That's a magnificent tackle. Gee, that was a great tackle by the fullback Sutton. And now Paikea runs it out. Well, Billy J. Smith, you wouldn't see a better tackle from a fullback than that one.
No, it was good stuff. And John's trying to make up his mind whether to go himself. What do you think, Dave? I suppose he had to have a good look around like that. But in the early part, it probably might have been going through his mind, well, I should have a go, but it's 1 6 or 1.5 dozen of the other.
I think the mistake he made, Bill, he could have straightened up a bit, then stood up the fullback, allowed the option of inside and out. By going toward the touchline all the time, it was crowding everyone out. And, of course, the opportunity for Hancock on the outside was then a very short pass. The ball went loose.
Cricket playing it now. The dummy half up there is Harvey. On it goes this time. Nice hefty tackle coming in there. Woods goes down, and the man to do it, of course, is Wally Lewis.
I think he'll have number 6 on next week.
I think he might just make it. Here's Bancroft putting a kick in. Carrying back here towards the winger. Waiting back there is Walters. Walters doesn't mess it up this time. Decides to run it out, which he does. Gets up to about 8 metres short of that halfway mark and just in from touch. Now to play it now. Dummy half is Madison. Broncos really throwing it about in this second half. Seem to have got since Lewis has been there in this second half, things are flowing, aren't they?
More ball movement to the backs, and Gene Miles, of course, loves the combination with Lewis. They played so much football together as That doesn't show everyone offside there except Langer. Key G was certainly offside. He stood off it, allowed Langer to pick it up. Therefore, only a scrum and not a penalty. I think the presence of Lewis gives him a more confidence and certainly more room out wide.
Well, I think Chris Johns would appreciate it too, wouldn't he? All right, down there with Terry Kennedy as the scrum packs down on the halfway mark.
Oh, dear.
At the moment,
Hang on, here's Langer going in after it. Can he get the bounce? He was tackled without the ball there, I'd imagine, wouldn't you? Play on, says the referee. New Zealand lose it up there. And he's going to play the knock on. Well, I don't know about that one, David. He was towing it through.
Yeah, I think it was a photo finish, certainly, Bill. Little Langer, here it is. Here's from the head on. Just go, there's the first little dribble first. And then, has he got it yet? No, definitely not. Certainly, they came together at the same time, but the knock-on has eventuated from New Zealand. Great chance, loose head and feed for the Broncos.
Righto, wait for Langer to put it in. What was that message there, Terry? Righto, here's Langer sending it across to Lewis. Lewis with a long one to Miles. Miles turns around, starts to cut back up the centre. Still going the big fella back to Lewis with that one-handed one that almost gives you heart failure.
So while he gets up.
Righto, from the play the ball now. The Broncos right on the line there. This is Langer turning it back inside. Leman coming through. Leman fighting his way for that line. He's about 5 metres out. Walters from dummy half on to Madison. Madison trying to crash it up there, but he's going to be put to the ground in the tackle. About to play. Waiting his dummy half is Walters. Langer and Lewis are getting a bit of a chat going there. So what's going to happen? Back it goes to Walter. Walter puts his head down and he's over underneath the post.
How much class has this fella got? He didn't even want the ball then. The ball came through him. He thought, well, I better do something. So he took off, ran across the try line. Lewis showing his strength. Eddie Ward saying a few words to him. I'd say there's Lewis suggesting that they can cut out the chatter. Have a look at the scoreboard, son. Have a look at this. The ball comes across Langer straight to Lewis. That certainly confused the defence, and Lewis just took off. No one in front of him. Sutton too late. Lewis in under the sticks. Have a look at it again from ground level. As we see the ball coming to Lewis, he just takes off. Body position always good, always going forward. Gets across right under the sticks.
And didn't the crowd at Lang Park love this? The hero of Lang Park, Wally Lewis. He's back with a vengeance. Watch out, Manly Warringah.
All right, well, I guess it might be confusing for the opposition when you see the Australian captain standing there with his hands on his shoulders, and the next minute the ball's there and he's over underneath the post.
Don't take your eyes off Lewis. And interesting that Alan Langer is going to have this shot for goal from right in front.
Broncos with a nice lead now of just on 20 points to nil. 19 and a half minutes remaining, and Langer no doubt about it through, so make that 22. Broncos charging away here at the moment, 22-0.
And it's Bancroft to get the game underway for New Zealand. They've really struggled so far. They really haven't threatened the Broncos line. And it's been a pretty polished display by this Brisbane outfit. Terry Kennedy.
David, Wayne Bennett is down on the sideline at the moment speaking to Rowan Teevan. Rowan has a bad cork in his side. They didn't want to use him, but the Broncos are quickly running out of reserves here. Greg Dowling has what appears to be a broken nose. Collins got a bad ankle injury, and Mark Hone has a bad cut and can't see out of his left eye.
Okay, so that's the attrition rate for the Brisbane Broncos in this 22 points to nil demolition job on the New Zealand Presidents 13. We've got Alan Langer on the sideline as well, GD holding the bugle, and Mark Hone with the patch on the eye. So we have Groff to feed this to go into the halfback role. It's fed by Panapa for New Zealand. And he comes away from the back of the scrum base. That's Bancroft. 10 metres inside the Broncos end of the ground. Bancroft to dummy half. It goes out to Panapa. Panapa in turn for the second row forward, Shane Hansen. He got it away to Panapa again, but he's wrapped up in the tackle and driven back by Gene Miles. Woods got the pass back in field. Bourneville knocked it on. He's had a very, very unhappy game. Bourneville, he failed to effect a tackle in 30 minutes on the field. In the first half, he was replaced. He's got a reprieve in the second half. Eddie Ward not happy the way that scrum is packing down. He separates the field. New Zealand collapse it. They drive forward over the top, and the penalty goes New Zealand's way. Feet across the tunnel. Work that one out, David.
He could have picked about 20, I think, reasons to penalise that scrum, but it was a good push ultimately by New Zealand to ensure that they got up, came away with the ball out the back of their scrum, and also the penalty resulting to them. One of the few opportunities they've had to go deep inside Bronco territory and really go on the attack.
Well, they're inside the 22. The tap restart by Harvey, the captain. It's for the second row forward, or the prop forward, Tuta. Tuta in 10 in this international numbering in this New Zealand pack. Out through Patapa to Bancroft, cut out pass, that's Rapati, driven back by the power of Chris Johns. There's a little bit of Gene Miles in that defence on that particular occasion. Creaker got the pass away to the fullback, Tom Sutton. He's up to the 22 and over the top comes Groff.
Had a good game, Sutton. He's been one of their better players.
2 tries, saving tackles. Oh, there's a great pass. Popped it up. And it's dived on by Craig Groff for the Brisbane Broncos. About 8 metres out from his own goal line. Tony Gordon, the New Zealand coach, far from impressed from the performance of his charges tonight. Joey Kilroy.
Impossible pass, that one from Kilroy.
That's something they're going to have to really eliminate from their game. They cannot afford, they won't get away with that against the top sides in Sydney.
Oh, he's coming off. It does appear to be. He has his boot off. Rowan Tevan is on. That's the 5th reserve that the Broncos have used. They've used 5 reserves. They have none left. The only Alan Langer is now off, but he also has ice on his right knee. So there's nobody left to go on.
Well, Rowan Tevan, a young player from Redcliffe, who apparently played a very impressive trial in North Queensland during the week. There's Bourneville. Well, really has had an unhappy game. Driven back another 5 or 6 metres. So a test for the Broncos defence once again. I know that Wayne Bennett would love to keep the scoreline 0 as far as New Zealand are concerned. No soft tries in the latter part of the second half. That would be the instructions. Panapa out for Brown. Brown through the dummy. That's Rapati. Rapati inside the 22. He'll go on his own. And that's the try. He went so close to going over the dead ball line as well. But Ivor Rapati scores New Zealand's first try, and the scoreline is 22 points to 4.
Conference, what a good ball this one was to put him away. Let's have a look at it as it comes out along the back line. There's that Brown again. Geez, I'd like to look at him, the front rower. Rapati makes the break. Now, look, the support was on the inside and out, but he had enough confidence himself to go around Tevan, had only just come onto the field, and scores it very close to the dead ball line.
Here it is head on, and you can see him breaking away here now, coming up and running across field, and he's got him well covered out there. He did have Hansen inside if he needed him.
First points to New Zealand. It's 22 points to 4 with a kick to come from Bancroft. He's an around-the-corner kicker from the Horsfield Club in Canterbury. A newcomer to representative football. He's 23 years of age. Here's his first attempt at a conversion at Lang Park. It looks good. It's there.
So coming back here to kick off again. Wally Lewis bringing the ball back now. And as we've heard from Terry Kennedy, the Brisbane Broncos run out of any replacement players down there at the moment. It looked like the walking or the sitting wounded down there a short time ago.
Wayne Bennett said last week that Gene Miles wasn't in the side for his good looks, so he can add Greg Dowling and Mark Hain to that group.
Yeah, they didn't exactly.
Well, Gene didn't have a real big start, though.
Righto, it's New Zealand now. Is that going to spur them on a little bit after they scored that try? Nice piece of work, both Rapati and also Peter Brown, who set up the pass and got it going from there. Panapa gets it away this time to Hansen. Hansen with the pass outside. Creaker kicking through, going out after it, but Tessman is going to win the race for the ball, and he'll get up to play at about 5 metres inside Broncos territory. At this stage, 12.5 minutes remaining in the match. The Broncos lead is 22 points to 6. Bringing play up to just about the halfway mark again. From the play of the ball, that's G. G a couple of metres inside New Zealand territory. Walters is dummy half.
One of the things Wayne Bennett was disappointed with last week, Bill, was the fact that they didn't finish on. There's a beautiful pass.
Madison got it back inside, still going through, and working his way up there will be Billy Noak. Noak put to the ground right on the quarter line. So from the play now, this is Lewis. Lewis sends a nice pass outside to Gene Miles. Will he go to the corner himself? Yes, he will, and he's in. Big Gino runs right around another 10 metres and puts it down, and the Broncos go further to lead, 24 points to 6.
Let's have a look at it as they move the ball out wide. There's the ball out from Laman. Look at this one. Put it straight out in front of Miles. Said, Gino, run onto this one. I said before, Rapati had plenty of confidence to beat the fullback, and he did down the other end, and Gene Miles had it all too. Went straight through the tackle of Sutton. Didn't know how to handle him. Here it is now from the head on as we come through.
How much do these two love playing in and outside each other, Lewis and Miles? Great power. Sutton, no chance. Isn't that a great sight in football, Billy, to see Big Gino on the boil?
It is coming up, attempting to convert Gene Miles' try. It's swinging around, but it won't swing around enough, so the score remains Broncos leading by 26 to 6. Well, we've had fireworks and all sorts of things from Power and National Mutual as this trial series takes through for the Broncos. Down to the fair dinkum stuff next Sunday night here at Lang Park, of course. Just a reminder once again, we'll be doing Friday night from Sydney, Saturday night from the Gold Coast, or from the Tweed, and Sunday night here from Lang Park. Friday and Saturday, there'll be 8:30 matches. The Lang Park one at 6:30, and you'll see those matches in their entirety. So no longer will you just get 46 minutes of football, you'll get it all.
More than just a try package.
Right, here we go. This is Keith G. G up midway between the quarter and halfway. Inside the Broncos territory. And the crowd really on the buzz now. Here's Lewis again. Gets his pass away this time to Groff. Groff got to be held up.
Saying, Billy, that one of the problems Wayne Bennett felt he had last week was the fact the side didn't finish on. They're certainly doing that tonight. That'll be something that'll certainly please him.
Madison got it back to G. Now they still keep it going, trying to work it away. Final tackle coming up from the play the ball. Waiting up there as dummy half. Out it goes to Lewis. Lewis with the boot underneath it. Sutton running back to retrieve it. He'll pick it up in the in-goal area. Willie's jumping around, but he finally gets it, starts to move. And quickly Hancock is up there to take him ball and all.
Got him for inside the 5 metres, but boy, can this fellow fly. I think Eddie Ward might have been a bit surprised at the speed of the guy. But adjudicating there that he was in front of Lewis when Lewis put the ball through. Got up there very quickly, certainly, but also showed his strength to knock over the fullback Sutton. Make sure he didn't get any ground at all. I like the look of Hancock, and I'd say he'll be in the side for next week. So I'm pretty sure that'll take up one wing spot. Another one still up for grabs between Walters and Joe Kilroy putting in a late bid.
So now it's New Zealand in possession. They're going to ruck it out from here. About 20 metres out from their own line now. They trail by 20 points at this stage. Broncos 26 to New Zealand 6. And we have 8.5 minutes remaining in the match. Well, as David Porter mentioned before, the good news, of course, is the way Wally Lewis is playing supremely here. Total confidence. Keith G, the tackler on that occasion. They'll play it now. Away from dummy half up there. This time is Harvey. Swinging across. Bancroft, the pass to no one. Eventually going to be picked up back there by Brown. He'll play it now. They're 24 metres out from their own line. Bancroft dummy half, sends it back inside. Going to ground with it is Hansen, is rather Tuta. From the play the ball this time. This is Hansen now, but a penalty coming up. Another New Zealander. Broncos a little bit too eager again. Yeah,
inside the 5 metres. Penalty to New Zealand. They'll look to also try and finish on a high note. They've really been a disjointed side and somewhat disappointing for Tony Gordon.
Here's a kick for touch and is going to bring play up to a couple of metres inside Broncos territory. So New Zealand coming onto the mark now, about to take that tap. Back over there to the front rower in Tuta. Dummy half is Harvey. Harvey swinging away. Panapa. There's the try scorer, Rapati. Wrapped up in the tackle this time though. He'll play it. Waiting up his dummy half there is Paikea. Paikea trying to work his way through, but going to be pulled to the ground. Tackler up there is Groff. Away from the play the ball this time. Panapa gets it away then to the second row, Mark Woods. Woods put to the ground. About to play it. Back on to Panapa. Pass to no one, rolling loose. Bancroft is going to go for it, but eventually coming away with it this time is Tuta. Final tackle. Watch for Bancroft to put the boot underneath it. There it goes. It's a nice high one. Going across over there to Walters on the wing. He spilled it again. Referee to play that knock on. Handling hasn't been too good over there tonight.
Not the best. Walters has had his opportunity this season. He's had the 2 games, the main games. Kilroy, of course, would have been one of the contenders, but he did injure his ankle a short time ago. So certainly that one still up for grabs.
So waiting for the scrum to pack down. Panapa is the halfback. Well, the man feeding the scrum, he came on as the centre, but there's Bancroft with it, getting it away to Sutton. Sutton pulled to the ground. That's Lewis in underneath there. He'll play it. Bancroft is the dummy half. Bancroft getting away to Paikea. Paikea with the pass outside. Trying to find a way through as Rapati. Creeker's dummy half. He's hurt his knee a little bit, but he'll go up and play that position. Sending away to Panapa, back inside this time to Bourneville. Bourneville, they keep it going. Bancroft got away from Keith G. Now sends a pass that bounces across over there to Brown. They keep it going. This time it's Tuta. Tuta put to the ground. A pass going back at pretty scrappy stuff, and eventually coming up with it there will be Paikea again. Away from dummy half. Woods goes himself over the quarter line. Met up there by Testman and Walters. Dummy half with it this time, Harvey. Cross over there to Papama. Back inside, they still keep it going. That was Brown sending it back, but the ball is going to be knocked on, and we'll have a scrum coming up.
Peter Brown, a veteran of the Kiwis lineup, but certainly has shown his experience tonight with a couple of good offloading of the ball. He's given opportunities to his supports, but they haven't been able to go on with them.
New Zealand leading the scrums by 14 to 6. Johns goes back, so too does young Rowan Teevan, the former Redcliffe player. Takes the ball about 5 metres out from his own goal line. Wrapped up by Horo. Strong defence by the New Zealand lock forward. Running away from dummy halfers. Teevan again. He's about 5 metres short of the 22 at his end of the ground. Walters for G. Strong second row forward G. It's a great recovery actually, because he came back from a crushed vertebrae in 1981. But he's certainly a very handy acquisition for the Brisbane Broncos. Tessman trying to unload the pass back in for Wally Lewis. Final tackle now for the Broncos. It'll come back for Lewis. Lewis turned the pass back in field. Miles for the one-hander for Teevan. For Tessman, the ball kept alive, not effectively though. Picked up this time back in field from LeMan. And running upfield is Billy Noak. Noak for Teevan, that pass is forward. And the referee is there to rule it.
Well, we're yet to see Hancock be put away. There's the Broncos bench looking in expectation, but an opportunity then was for Hancock to position himself and go on with it. Eddie Ward rules that it went forward. Might have been just as well for Hancock because he put it on the deck.
Injured player in back play is Sam Panapa. To his position. He'll go out onto the right wing. In fact, he's leaving the field, Terry Kennedy. Any sign of a replacement out there? Well, we've lost Terry for a moment. That's Wally Lewis now about to look for touch on the far side. He drives the ball into touch about 5 metres short of the 22. There's the tap restart by the Brisbane Broncos for G to Groff to Lewis. That's Billy Noak, a player trying to impress out there for one of those contentious second row spots. There's the pass back now. Long pass, Madison overhead pass. Here's Tessman. Support inside of Hancock, and Hancock comes around under the post for his second try. So it appears now that Groff is the man. This is the fourth kicker used by the Brisbane Broncos tonight. Craig Groff, left foot, up go the flags. So a further change to the scoreline, a 26-point advantage to the Brisbane Broncos, and we've got just about a minute and a half remaining.
Once again, been some good performances from the Broncos, and each week we're going to have a Broncos award for the match, and it's good to have George Simons back involved with rugby league. The outfit of the Broncos, of course, they've got the smart jerseys, but they're also going to be the best dressed side in town with seats given each week for the Broncos' best player.
Here we go. We're coming into the final minute of play here at Lang Park, and the Broncos with a good lead of 32 points to 6. That's good in anyone's business, but there's several other reasons why Wayne Bennett to be happy tonight, and we'll talk about those just a little bit later. But that's G sending it back inside to Groff. Groff away to Walters. Walters up to the halfway mark, still keeping it going, and that's Madison going to ground with it. He'll get up to play. Keith G down injured in the background, but he got up and he's back into it again. This is Lewis. He makes out he's going to kick. He bounces forward. Then he gets the pass back over to Teevan. Teevan take a little bit high on that occasion. Put down about 10 metres inside New Zealand territory. You'd think it was the first minute of the match. They really want to keep it going. This is Tessman again, the big fellow on the bustle. Gets a pass away this time nicely. Back inside to Groff, and Groff will give us another one in the final minute of play. Nice work today. There he is, coming out to Madison. Turns it back inside. Sutton couldn't do anything else. He had to go for the man with the ball, but that came to Groff, and Groff is over for the try. He attempts to convert it, and meanwhile, of course, the full-time hooter is sounded as all that activity was going on. So a big scoreline here for the Broncos tonight. They can approach next week's match against Manly with a fair amount of confidence under their tail, but I think there'd still be a fair bit of work to be done, as Wayne Bennett would say. 7 tries they've run in tonight. That try is converted. So the full-time score, the Brisbane Broncos defeat New Zealand by 38 points to 6. 38-6, the full-time score here at Lang Park. So there they are, just milling around after the match.
Well, I think Wayne Bennett once again will be very pleased with that. A couple of injuries don't look to be major ones, but certainly some good players. I thought Chris Johns showed out. Gene Miles had an excellent game. Hancock shows he's got what it takes, I should say. And of course, Madison in that back row, he's a certainty to fill his place in the side.